Okay, so I think depending on your time zone, good afternoon, good morning, or good evening. So yeah, we'll be starting our session today. Today we'll be working with APIs. So we'll be having David as our facilitator. So this is part of our Android series sessions. We will be having a series of trainings every weekend, training on different aspects of Android. So yeah, my name is Clifford. I'm the GDSE lead at Moi. And today we'll be having David as our facilitator. He's an Android developer at Trivago. So yeah, maybe David, you can introduce yourself and start off.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I'm David, an Android engineer at Trivago. I've been doing Android for about almost five-ish, six-ish years. And yeah, today we'll be looking at how to work with APIs. Let me first share some slides with you to see share screen. It's gonna share. Okay, just share the whole screen then. Yeah, so working with APIs, and if you've never heard of what an API is, or you're wondering what the hell is an API, what is an API, what is API? So this is the Wikipedia definition of an API. In full, it's application programming interface. So basically, it's just it's kind of like a pathway that enables you, like two services or two systems or two libraries or something, to just communicate between each other. I think from the definition they say it's a connection between computer programs, offering some form of service. So you can just think of an API as like a kind of like a gateway or a pathway, which kind of two objects, to computers, to services, to apps or something are trying to communicate. And before I even go forth, an API can consist of a lot of almost everything that you've done this far in this series. You've kind of already worked with an API. If it's connecting your app with Firebase, that's kind of an API of its own, whatever is facilitating the communication or you doing the connection between your app and Firebase, be it trying to add, bringing in this library that you want to add maybe animations to your app, or you want to be able to load images. So there's some kind of connection happening between the library and your app, and there's something in which you're building on top of, and that's what basically the API is. So there are different types of APIs out there. Android has a lot of them, but the focus of today is working specifically with RESTful APIs. So yeah, to now that you know what an API is, what is this RESTful that I'm mentioning over here? So REST in full is representational state transfer, I believe. So it's just you can think of it as a bunch of, yeah, basically it's just like transferring state from one system to another, or and it's mostly done via HTTP. It uses the HTTP protocol. So from HTTP, you can already like figure out, or you can already derive that it's mostly used on for communicating with web-related kind of services, right? Connecting with the server or some backend service. So yeah, that's what basically RESTful APIs are. They facilitate like this communication between the clients, which is in this case is our Android app and maybe a server somewhere, and they use this HTTP protocol. Yeah, I'll attach a link if you want to read up more on how all this exchange happens. And the data you receive from a server is usually in the form of XML, or it can be JSON, or whatever other format there is out there. Those are the only two formats I personally have encountered. And that's how basically most apps work. Whenever someone tries and loads data from a server, let's say, for example, you log on to what app can I think of? Maybe YouTube, for example. That's the client app, and then it needs to hit some server somewhere, request data from it, like using that HTTP or HTTPS, whatever protocol. It gets back some information. Um, and this request has a bunch of information attached to it, like maybe how long the request took or the size of the response. And all this kind of information is attached to whatever response you're going to get back from the server. And let's say you get back like the name of the video, the amount of likes it has, the what else? Dislikes it has, the link to the actual video. Maybe if you've ever watched the video, maybe it stores some information about the last minute where you are the last time you watched the video. So all this information comes back in some sort of format, which can be XML or JSON. And if you don't know how this format looks like, I think I'm gonna just try and show you how maybe an XML response example. Let's see if you've never actually seen, let's see, maybe Oracle might have something useful. Um, this doesn't look like okay, this is a bit, has a lot of, let me just see simple example. One that doesn't have a lot of things to explain and is pretty much straightforward to work with. Yeah, sample XML, let's see. Yeah, so I think kind of you can imagine getting like an XML. This is not that common, but in the event you ever come across it sometime when you're working, yeah, sometimes some people might send back an XML response and it has like some fields, maybe a contact. For example, this one has like a contact, if it has errors and a couple of other fields. What you will encounter most times, what we call a JSON kind of response, and it looks like this. Let me see if I can expand this. Okay, so it seems like let me see if I reduce the size, can I? Okay, so I can't. Okay, let me then see if there's another site that can actually show it as I wanted it to. JSON sample. Mm-hmm. Well, this isn't formatted as, yeah, so basically a JSON looks kind of like this. It's just a file that has this opening kind of what they call curly braces, and this kind of represents the field. Um, Let me look for one which has data which you can relate with. JSON dataset example. No, Adobe doesn't seem. Wow, there actually isn't any. Okay, there's a JSON API. Awesome. So for example, this here has, yeah, like for example, the data that it's attached to, and maybe the type, I don't know, whatever this API is expected to return, and a couple of other types of data expected that will be returned back. So this is just to show you how a JSON looks like. You don't need to know what this is. So different uh, RESTful APIs maybe return different sets of data. They could be JSON format, they could be XML format, or whatever other format they are out there. And today we're going to look at how to make these requests and get this data and display them on an app. And to do that, I decided to look for a very, very simple service which we will use to do this. And it's this site. Doesn't require too much. It doesn't actually doesn't require any form of setup. So what do I mean by service? So this RESTful API, most of you, when you're trying to consume data from a server or yeah, this web service or whatever, you'll always have some form of link or URL that is like the path now that you use to connect your app to this service. In this case, this is that link that we need to use to be able to access the data from that service. And depending on what you want, you can have to add this you have to add this I think it's called the path to whatever it is that you need to that link that you got before. For example, if I want the users on page 2 and they already have like the base link, I just have to take this and add it here, and there you go. It adds it over there. And as you can see, it returns you the response in the JSON format which you're looking at before. It has like information like the page, how many uh, things are being received for each page, uh, how many users are there, the data itself, and then maybe information about each and every user. And this is how JSON looks like. So we want to see if we can be able to display at least one or two users from this using this API, this RESTful API. And to do that, first we're gonna have to, let me go back and show you how we're gonna have to create a project. Close this. I'll create a new project. And then I'm gonna call this sample RESTful API. And yeah, it's creating, it's building. Should be almost done. Is it? Awesome. So it's done. We have this. So as you can see, this is like an app which consumes that this API, this RESTful API. It gets the JSON, does something we call JSON parsing. JSON parsing is when you receive that JSON data, you need to be able to read it and maybe now start attaching it to your views. For Android, maybe set the text to the text view, set the image to the image view, um, choose the right layout to like arrange everything the way you want it to be. So JSON parsing is like taking all this data, reading from it, um, checking that you have the correct type of data, and once that's done, then setting it to your views. And as you can see, this is a web example where they have kind of passed the JSON and bound it to the view, and this is the end result. So we want to try and do something similar, but for the Android app. And so, yeah, let's see. Let's try and get some users and set their. So how do we do this on Android? So there are a bunch of libraries that are built to do this. When starting out, we before the age of libraries and simplified ways to do this, we had things like async tasks. We had things like async tasks on Android. So yeah, but this was kind of deprecated This is a deprecated class. We no longer use this anymore. We will use this to kind of be the connector and make all these HTTP calls behind the scenes and get back the data and do whatever it is that you want with it. Also making use of things like the URL class and some HTTP related classes. And you can imagine how maintaining this would kind of be a headache. So fortunately for us, we have libraries that make our life simpler. And I'm gonna show you one called Retrofit. Retrofit GitHub. So we have a library called Retrofit by Square. Type safe, it's a HTTP client. Like I said, REST is like works with the HTTP protocol of like sending and receiving um, the data, and that's how it communicates with the server, and that's what we'll need. So this is the library we'll need to import to our app. And so I'm looking for the wiki and how to add it. Yeah, they give you an intro now to use it, but I'm looking for the how to add it to. Yeah, so I'm gonna take this and then add it to my app over here. I'm gonna come here, add it there. The latest version, I think, is, they usually write it somewhere here. 2.9. Yeah, if you ever want to know like the latest version, you can always come to the releases and just check out the latest tag. Yeah, it's 2.90. Okay, 2.90. And we have retrofit. Awesome. So we have the library which we'll be making the calls with. Next thing you can do is go back to the API, whatever documentation you have for your API. And so this is the data that we want to display, right? And we'll have to create a model, something that represents the data that we expect from the server, the backend, the web service. So this ID, email, first name, last name, avatar, we can group it into its own class and then create a whole other class for this page, per page total, and the data. So that's what I'm gonna do next. You can do this by hand, but there are also plugins that help you do this. I'm not sure if I have it installed, but yeah, you can always look for that some other time because I'm not sure if I have it installed on this machine. Yeah, I think I'll just create it by hand, but there are plugins that make your life way, way easy when you do this. I'm just gonna call this user and I'm gonna create all these fields. Yeah, yeah, this is a very painful way to create it, but should have installed the plugin earlier. If you don't know, val makes it immutable, which is there's val and there's var. Val is always the go-to because it makes things immutable, and it's good to always know the state of your data. Won't like change somewhere during the execution of the program unless you create a whole new object, and that means less bugs for you. think I kind of covered them all. So this is kind of what the user looks like, and then there's what else? We have the response. Let me say user list response. So the user list response has page, and this. I just need this. Just gonna come here and create that, and file. You have the page, you have the page, you have that. Okay, this is an integer. This is also an integer. And yeah, I'll get to why I'm not changing the variable names in just a minute. I'm leaving them as they are. And yeah, this is how it looks like. What else? Oh yeah, there's okay, data wasn't int, data was a list of user that we just created. And this is pretty much how it looks like. A page, and this is the response that we'll be getting. So this is the class that we'll be using to map whatever we're getting back from the API to the to Kotlin, and to use it, to be able to use it and bind our views, right, and show the data. So how do we do this connection? So remember we added a library called Retrofit. We should have done this. No, yeah, already deep into Retrofit. So you could also will share resources on how to do this without Retrofit. I think that's a very, very beneficial for you to learn doing all this without the help of libraries. You might encounter this in some interviews. Some people would really like to see how you can do this without using the libraries, using the JSON objects and JSON arrays, and try and pass all this data on your own before you start using the libraries. So yeah, I'd recommend you to check it out, but just for the sake of showing you the end goal, I'll just use this method for now. Yeah, we have retrofit. Then retrofit has something called a service. So the name, usually the service is just like the name of like the API service you're using. I just gonna call this user API service or something. There's no really like uh, so so HTTP, they call HTTP, they call the verbs, or so we have different kind of, okay, depends with the request. Each request you're trying to make has some, I think I'd call them verbs, so something attached to them. It could be post. Post are usually used for data you're trying to maybe add. We're trying to register a user, sign up someone. You're trying to make some addition or some change on the database, and then get really doesn't have any kind of you're not really changing any. You just want to just read the data. Uh, Update. There's also update, which is used to just as the name says, update. Patch, delete, and there are a bunch of other this HTTP pubs that you can read up on. I'll also attach a link to that. But what you're interested in now is one called get, because we just want to read values from the API. And what you put here is this. See, this is, oops, okay. Why does it keep on being, why can't I just want to take this here up to there? Okay, nice. I'm gonna put this there. And then I'm gonna call this function get users. And then it's gonna return a response. So there's this class called response. And the response is going to be a user list response. And what am I forgetting? Oh, oops, yeah, this is an interface. Because we don't need to really implement this. So let me first check if we can get it without doing anything complex. Okay, awesome. So this is the link to the users. Just say I want to get, basically you're trying to get some values from this endpoint. So these are called endpoints. And this is whatever you attach after this main URL, kind of what you call the endpoints. And this is like the base, or like kind of like the head of the snake, the base or the spine, uh, whatever represents the foundation for you. This is it. So this needs to be somewhere in the app where you'll just be attaching these endpoints, because they can be different. Maybe there's one for users, maybe there's another one for followers, another one for posts, another one for whatever it is this API handles. So the endpoints are always changing, but the base doesn't really change that much. Um, yeah, depending on how the project is. So usually you might find, no, actually I'm gonna just do that somewhere else. So I'm gonna create a whole new, no, or actually I may just even just do it here. Just gonna do it here and say this creates creates a user API service, and it's gonna return this user API service. Uh, and this user API service, I'm gonna use retrofit builder. Right. Then as you can see, there's something called base URL. So this is where you put this. I was calling it the base, or kind of like the spine where the endpoints are gonna be attached. And then I don't think there's, let's see, build, create. Then you're gonna create this user API service class. And there you go. So this is gonna create this API. Now this is what's gonna create that bridge between your app and the web service or the backend. Then you're gonna be able to make, you won't be able to access like get users, for example. Let me show you. If I decide to do something like if I come here and I say user service, create user API service, and I do something like, now I can be able to like get the users. So this might not work at first, but yeah, let me first do this for you to see. I was gonna start by logging so that we can see if the API is working. So So everything here kind of looks like it will work, but it won't. But let's first run and see what's gonna make it crash. Also, never always remember to add the internet permission here. Internet permission, because you are actually gonna be using the internet. Like you need the internet access to make this request. So yeah, let's see what it tells us. Oops, is this phone on? Okay, it's on. Okay, I think it's done. Hopefully that's okay. Awesome. Is it still okay? It's still building. Still building. Yeah, and it crashed as predicted, and we can check the issue here. So I use the log cut. This I means info. So they usually log D, log V, log I, log W, log E. So I is info, and you can just filter it out. Come here, info. Okay, I think since it's crashed, let's try and rerun it again. Okay, I think it's gonna run on the don't run on. They want it to run on this device. It's gonna run on the wrong device. Just a sec. So as you can see, there's an error, and it's saying could not call adapter blah 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 retrofit to response, unable to create call adapter for this. So what this means is when you come here, so we need to add something called we need to add an adapter. What this adapter does is, so whenever you receive the data from the API, right, it looks like, sure that we already built a class that looks like that response, but the library doesn't know how to convert this, doesn't know how to convert this to, or to map this data that it has received to this class. So you have to tell it how to do that. It doesn't know how to do that. And for you to do that, you need to add an adapter for it. So we're gonna have to look for an adapter in Retrofit. So let's see. They usually have, let me just do this. Retrofit call adapter. Okay. Why isn't is yeah. Oops. I'm looking for how to add it, not how to, not the okay. Adapter. Let me say GitHub. Okay. No, this isn't what I'm looking for. I am looking for the one and only retrofit adapter. Okay, let me just do this retrofit adapter. Retrofit. Okay, let me just check from the retrofit. Oh yeah, retrofit adapters. Hmm. Wait. Am I adding the right adapter? Did it say call adapter? Did it say wait? Unable to start activity, unable to create call adapter for yeah. So there should be okay. Let me add Moshi adapter retrofit. So we have this things that handle JSON. So like I said, you're receiving this JSON class from the web, and you're trying to pass it or convert it to your data class, but there's nothing that's facilitating this conversion, which you call deserialization. So there's nothing handling this serialization and deserialization of your JSON, and there are a couple of libraries which also do that. You can also do this by hand using, like I just mentioned, things like JSON objects, JSON arrays, but it's very tedious and it's a lot of work to do. So a lot of people already built libraries around this. There's Moshi, there's Jackson, there's the Kotlin uh, serialization library, and a bunch of other libraries out there. So I personally use Moshi most of the times, and that's what I'm going to use. Yeah. So yeah, I think I was looking for retrofit converters. So there's this add converter factory that you just need to add. So I am gonna come here, add this converter. Oops. Okay. This is the wrong. I assume this is the version they all use. Might be wrong. Okay, no, I'm not. Okay, hope so. Okay, I need to sync. Let's see. I'm gonna come here. Visitors adapter. Wait, is this the one I was looking for? Wait, I'm looking for converter factory. Okay. Let's see if this changes anything. So that only fixes something that we were yet to encounter. So the next thing is create call adapter. Oh yes, I need to do this. So we are gonna use something called, wait, am I missing something? Something called coroutines to be able to launch or run this calls in a to be able to launch these calls in a background thread. Yes. So I'm gonna also add that again. Wait, do I need anything? Then I'll also need to add another library. I don't need the support for GitHub. I'm gonna use Kotlin. Where is this? Hmm. Is this the one I really need? Or is there different? Okay, so there's Android. Okay, so I think we'll just use this one first and see if it will bring any Kotlin's coroutines. I'm gonna come here. So we have suspend. So at suspend functions, if you've never seen suspend before, suspend functions. So what they do is they kind of like as the word says, they kind of pause execution of any work. Um, they do they run some. Let's say you have like a give you have a task that you want to run. There's a task that you are running, and it encounters a suspend function. Okay, and it I mean and it encounters a suspend function. What it does is it's gonna like move this work to make sure I'm saying so that I don't lose anyone. Yeah, just like as it says, it's going to suspend whatever it was doing or like take a pause, execute the work in maybe in a separate thread, then come back and continue doing the work in the simplest possible way I can explain it. And that's what you want to do here so that it doesn't necessarily block. So what happens with Android apps if you block the main thread for like 5 or more seconds, you're gonna get this Android not responding error, and then your app is gonna like crash, and it's gonna be a very nasty experience for your users. So yeah, suspend functions in the most layman terms I've ever used before. So let's move on to, so if I'm using suspend, let's see, yeah, this is gonna bring an error. So what, because we're using coroutines under the hood, we need a scope which you launch or execute this coroutine so that you can be able to cancel them whenever you want to. You have like more control on when to cancel or not cancel the um, the coroutines that are attached to that scope. And the scope here can be, which will I need to add some extra library for the scope. Let's see. Let me see if I have access to life cycle. Okay. So I will need to add one more library to the libraries that were created to create all these helper methods. So I'm gonna look for activity KTX. There's like an extension on Kotlin. No, Groovy. I need this 1.3.1. Okay. So I think there should now be a scope that I can access. Yes, lifecycle scope. Then you can launch when it's created. And let's see if this crashes. So okay, I think I need to be able to launch this on a different device so that you all can see. But if you have a look at the log cuts, Mm, it's cool. So the app now kind of can run. Now we need to be able to execute this. Just a sec. Just a sec. I am looking for. Right. This was retrofit. And yeah, so if you go to the retrofit documentation, you can see we created our own service. What else? What else did we do? Built the retrofit. This is what I was doing here. I was building the. If you look at this service, this is where you come and build your retrofit client. You create your service. Then you can, from there, you can kind of call whatever it is you need to call and execute your request. But it seems like I need to do one more thing. Yeah. Wait, I could be wrong because I rarely use retrofit that much nowadays. And yeah, let's see if this changes anything. And if I call execute, oh, okay, so it already does that for me outside the box. What does it say? Inappropriate car. Yeah, so in an ideal scenario, you wouldn't be calling this code like this. And usually, most apps have some form of architecture in place so that you do not call, for example, API blocking code in an activity. That's bad practice. But since this is just for learning purposes, I will remove a couple of things then. I'm gonna do it this way. I don't think I'll need this. I'm just gonna call this a call. And yeah, basically it's just like a call to like a call, it's making a call to the web. And this is the response that we expect. And let's see, is there something else I'm missing? No. Wait, let's see. Could I? Okay, let me see. Can this, let me just confirming if I can change. Can I change this to this? Can I do this? Okay, I can do that. So I was checking if I can change the thread to use like a background IO thread, but seems it's not doable this way because we're doing this from the activity. We had an architecture in place, we would have done it somewhere else, which would have made it way simpler. But let's see what results do we get from this. Did it crash? I bet it did. Wait, it didn't. It did. Why is it telling me? Yes, this is what I wanted to see. I want to see why it's crashing and it's not showing me. Okay, thank you. unable to create converter. So it's unable to create a converter. Let me think. So that means it's unable to convert this data to it's unable to link the data it's receiving from the API to the data that we expect it to bring. And that's weird. So unless I actually screwed up somewhere, let me check up the API again. Page per page, total data ID, email, first name, avatar, string, int, okay. So let's int, user, int, and yeah, I don't see any issue why it will crash. Let's see, no JSON. Oh, no JSON adapter. Okay, so probably some issue then with, did I add Moshi to the setup? Yes, I did. And let's see, Moshi, Retrofit. Oops. And one more thing, did I forget something? So I need to add this to my fields, and that's it. Okay, so seems like I need to add this. So let's see if this changes anything. I think this is probably due to some Kotlin related thing. I think if it was maybe Java, you wouldn't have to do this. But this is kind of just to help it map things. Weird. Weird that it has to do this. Page, page, total pages, data. Okay, let's see if this changes anything. I doubt. Okay, it seems like it didn't. And why? Is it something else? No JSON adapter. Unable to create not enough converter for user activity, user list response. What does it need? No, what I'll just do, I'm just gonna take this. Unable to create converter and just put it there and see what people face. What's the issue that people face most times? Okay, yeah, this is a different library called JSON that uses this serialized name, and it's kind of the same thing we've done. Unless there's something I'm not getting, missing when using suspend keyword. Okay. Okay, let me see. Then probably the issue is signal, send the request and return its response. What happens if I do enqueue? Okay. Okay, let me do it this way then. It wants a call. Wait, what value does it want here? Yeah, what's the value of callback? I mean, come on. Callback, user list response. Okay. Okay, so there are a lot of callbacks. So this sucks. Then let me see. Which callback is this? Yes, is execute. Do this and see if yeah, if this is the issue, then I don't know. Then we have this. And I'm gonna put something like okay. Okay, let me see. Good, it crashed. So able to create converter. Okay, able to create converter. Okay, I did all this. Was I not supposed to? Okay, let's see. I think I'll just refer to something I've done before because I rarely use retrofit nowadays. Where could it be? APIs. Okay. And where do we create this API? It's called the remote. What? Okay. What? And client motion converter factory. Yeah, that looks exactly as we've done it. So what could be the issue? Okay, app Let me check it one more time. Data remote, source, main, models. What do we do with our responses? Pretty much the same. Then I don't get why this isn't. Huh, weird. Unless did something change? Hmm, Such, okay. We have a service somewhere. Suspend. Yeah, what happens if I actually do decide to do this? Yeah, so it seems that was the issue. I was trying to mix up uh, some Java related things with coroutines and it wasn't working as expected. But if you look at the logcat, we have our response back. So here it is. And we can set this to maybe this. So we have a text view somewhere. So we can have this names text view. And if you come here, then I call it find view by ID text view. Names text view. Um, um, to, to, names text names text view. Then let me just do this. Oh, am I writing this as Java? Chain builder. Then just do sp dot for user in users. Then I'm gonna do sp dot append and then just add each and every user first name, dot, and just to show you. Then set the text to the text view. Okay, so yeah, it loads all the names of all these people. And that's how we kind of consume data from the backend to the front end. So this is kind of a very extensive topic, but this is a very, very basic and quick setup example on how to set it up. Yeah, you're gonna encounter maybe some errors when trying to do this if it's your first time. second time, third time, thousand time, doesn't matter. You're gonna just encounter some weird issues as you have seen. And yeah, I think we've kind of covered most of the common kind of issues or scenarios you might run into while trying to set this up with the libraries. But then there's also alternatives if you don't use the library and just want to go on your own and use the raw classes themselves. That's also an alternative, but a bit tedious, but also nice for you to know and get your hands dirty and understand how it works, because it will kind of help you debug issues if you encounter them in the libraries. So I think I'm gonna stop there uh, and have you take it all in and ask any questions or um, yeah, anything that doesn't make sense. I'm just gonna give you time to like soak it in fast before we continue on this long API coroutines background work kind of journey. And I'll stop sharing.
David,
Hmm.
we have some
Yep, sure. Hello. Did I lose connection? Hello. No. So, okay, I think I'll just, because it seems like Karen dropped off, I'm gonna start with the first question I see is, how will the plugin work where it's installed? So let me just share the screen again. So if you want to get the plugin installed, oops, where is my, if you want to get the, okay, plugin installed, okay, it's taking its sweet time. So if you want to get the plugin installed, you just come to uh, you come to plugins, and then there's a JSON. Oh, actually, I have it. JSON to Kotlin class converter. And I think there's a short demo here. You can see someone just, you can just like copy the whole JSON text, paste it in there, and it's going to convert it and create classes for you. That's how it works. So I think if we, I don't know if it's accessible from tools. Yeah, I can't remember exactly because I haven't also used JSON in some converting JSON in a while. But there should be, once you install it, they're gonna just tell you where to access it. It should be somewhere here. You can access it, post your JSON data there, and it's going to create classes for you. No need to do all that stuff on your own like I was doing. It's kind of tedious. Yeah, so someone's asking what's the difference between the adapter and converter factory. Yeah, the converter, like the Moshi, Jackson, and all these others, they are the ones which handle the JSON serializing and deserializing for you. Initially, you'd have to do this by hand using this JSON arrays, JSON objects, and whatever JSON class there is out there by hand. So you'd have to like loop through this JSON, check if is this, are we inside an JSON array, are we inside the JSON object, then pass each field on your own, check the type, and then read that type. But the JSON converters, they do that for you, Moshi and etc and all this. The ones they have all these annotations and stuff which help it make it easy for you to not worry about all this. They're gonna take care of converting the whatever response you got from the web backend to your data class. The call adapter, I think that's kind of what takes care of uh, uh, like handling the calls, get like making the actual call and receiving like the packets or bytes or whatever and converting it to actual like JSON data, which you can now actually start passing. So it handles that part of making the calls and what thread are you in and etc, making sure it's in the background, is not gonna hang and the sort and the likes. So it's handling the request part, the request response part, and the converter part is handling the converting the data to your data classes to something which you can now use on the app. Uh, and then any suggestions for API designers for things that are useful on mobile that differ from web, that are useful on mobile that differ from web? I don't really get, but I think hmm, the differ on web. I can't really think of any. I think it's just the same consuming for us as it is for iOS, as it is for web. There's really not a much big of a difference. If the API is designed well, that is no, not like receiving maybe if you know like this field is a string and it's a string and it's not gonna be like a string or an integer or whatever other data, then I think that's easier for everyone, not just us. I think the whole whoever is building a front end thing. My question is, what is the difference between log I and log A? Okay, let me share my screen once again. So there is no log A. There's only the only so there's something called a log cut. This is where we see our logs, the device that the app is being run on, the process name, or rather the process name, and this number is the process ID, also known as the package name that you gave your app, like the ID for your app. Then you can show only the app that you want, like only show your app in this place because there can be a lot of noise over here from other apps in the installed, maybe like Google Maps, Google Photos, etc. You just want to see only your app. And then there's this part over here. So there's verbose, debug, info, warn, error, and as such. So depending on the level of you see when you're looking at the logcat, you can notice like this is I for info, E for error, W for warning. And if you want to maybe see the log in the error, for example, there's log E, there's log I, there's log D, there's log W, there's log WTF. So all these logs, if you want to see them, you come to the logcat, and if, for example, you choose you only want to see things info, anything that log V or log D, you won't be able to see them. If you choose error, you won't be able to see anything that's below error. Like you won't be able to see if you use log V, log D, log I, log W anywhere, they won't be shown. only log E and log WTF are what will be shown. And if you choose this, then yeah, this is, I think, the one that shows the log WTF. So they all have these different levels of priority, or not really priority, but levels of, is it urgency or something in that line? So the different log levels. So I guess that answered everyone's question. And I'll be wrapping it on there. If you have any questions, I'm in the group. You can yeah, just ask over there and I'll answer the best way I can, or provide all the resources to help in today's yeah, there's a lot to cover about APIs, a lot. It never ends. But yeah, if you need any help or clarity or clarification on something, just let me know.
Okay, thanks, David, for facilitating the session. Thanks, everyone, for attending. If you have any questions, like David has said, he's in the group. You can ask your questions there and he'll answer and share any resources. So, yeah, you're free to leave now. Thanks for joining and see you next week for another 100 series session.
Bye.